So I'm very delighted to hear that you're all not happy with the schedule. That means that the program's going well and everything is normal. It may seem to people that the schedule is arbitrary and inflexible and has been set up willy-nilly by people who can't think straight. However, there is a rhyme and reason to why we have 2 Dharma sessions in the morning and not one in the morning, one in the afternoon. Because, if we end here, let's say 10:15, that means that you have to take a break. So then it's 10:45 in the morning before you have your break and change clothes, and 11:45 you're ready to go out into the forest, but at 11:45 then you have to come back because you have to clean up and change clothes to come to lunch. Then after lunch, at 2:15, if we had a discussion group, that would end maybe 3:30, 3:45. So you're ready to go to the forest after your break at 4:15. Then you have to come back from the forest to clean up again before medicine meal at 5:45. So you spend a lot of time changing clothes and walking back and forth to the forest. So that's why we do it the way we are. And I want to be totally upfront that there is going to be no person in this group who has all of their needs met by this course. Okay, so let's just get that straight at the beginning. Your needs are not going to get met. Like I said, you don't like the schedule. You're not going to like the schedule. You're not going to like the liturgy, but I heard there was no criticism about the kitchen, so that's maybe this group isn't normal. I don't know. Usually there's we don't like this, and we don't like that, we want this. Anyway, okay. So it's quite interesting because there's been a lot of thought put into setting up different policies and so on that we have here. And sometimes, our guideline is always what creates a conducive environment for Dharma practice. But it doesn't always seem that way when you first come to the Abbey. It may seem like, why are these people doing this way, And I just remember one time very early on, I had to ask somebody, please only heat leftovers up one time, because they were getting heated up many times. And this person got very upset and angry with me. Well, why not? And then I realized, she doesn't understand that each time you heat the leftovers up, the vitamin content decreases and the bacteria content increases. It's like, I thought that was common knowledge, that somebody would know that. Well, that is established for me never, or put it this way, assume as little as possible. Okay? We have had people come here who seriously do not know how to sweep a floor. Or do not know how to make their bed. Because whatever was going on at home, they never learned that. So we have to teach them those things. So it's, everybody's at a different point and needs to learn different things. And we set things up as best as we can to, establish a good Dharma atmosphere. And whatever isn't conducive, then we try and transform into a good Dharma atmosphere. Yeah? Like the banging, It's like, okay, it'd be nice if there weren't banging. You might be able to focus a little bit better, but there's banging. So, we thank the people for building Chenrezig Hall so that we can use it. Yeah? Either that or we go out there and bang and build it ourselves. Yeah. So, we try and take things and transform them into the path. There also the course is not designed so that at the end you come out with a nice, clean, clear decision about whether to become a monastic or not. That is not the purpose of the course, okay? And I doubt that will happen. Anyway, the purpose of the course is to get you thinking about issues that apply to monastic life, and issues also that, if you're going to really go deep in your practice, are things that you're going to need to work with. Your relationship to family and career and friends and peer pressure and money and all these kinds of things, you know? So all this stuff is going to come up in your practice, whether you practice as a lay person or as a monastic. They're more likely to be critical points if you practice as a monastic, because of the change of lifestyle that you make in taking precepts. Okay, so the program is designed to give you some information, or some pointers of things to look at and contemplate, and we're not expecting you to resolve all these things during the duration of the course, because many of these topics that come up are the tip of the iceberg, that are issues that we may have been working with our lives, or maybe have repressed most of our lives, and they're just now coming up in our practice. Okay? So we're not assuming everybody's going to work through everything. Yeah, and in different discussions, different people may have different things that come up to them. And for one person, they may be really stirred up after a certain topic is discussed, and another person in the group is not stirred up about after that topic. And then the next day, that other person is stirred up about that topic, but the first person wasn't. Okay? So everybody's going to get stirred up about different things. And, again, we have limited time for discussion. And it would be difficult to extend the discussion period because of one person's, they got stirred up. So if something's getting stirred up for you, and it will, and that's fine, and that's what's supposed to happen, then afterwards, either after lunch, kind of talk about it with the people at your table, or if you want to talk about it individually with me or with one of the monastics, just please ask us, and we're quite happy to talk with you. Or if you want to journal about it, go and do that. That's fine. Yeah, but that will definitely happen, I think to almost everybody here at some time during the program, that different discussion topics will really, kind of vibrate inside, and you see, I thought I had, what's that doing? Oh, I have some things I need to work out here. Or it may have been something that came up before for you in your practice, and you thought, no, now I have that settled, and there it is again. But, what I've really realized in practice is that sometimes the same kind of themes come up again and again and again. It's just that each time we work with them, we go a little bit deeper in looking at them and resolving them. Yeah? So don't let it bother you if something that has been an issue for you before comes up again. This is, again, very normal. And some of these things are, habit patterns of emotions, or habit patterns, ways of thinking that we've had for, not only years in this life, but who knows in previous lives. So it's going to take us some time to really understand this, and to extend some understanding and kindness to ourselves, and at the same time be able to open, that subject up so that we can look at it closely and see, what is really going on inside of us. What are we really needing? What are we really trying to say? Okay? So that's all part of the program. That's completely normal. Yeah, and like I said, the program is not designed so that you come out with a clean, clear, okay, now I know what I'm going to do. That's taken care of, put in that category, put in that box, locked up, now I can go on with my life. Because life doesn't work like that. Yeah, it isn't full of nice little neat categories that okay, take care of that, that's done. Yeah, is it? I mean, life is kind of, it just, some people say messy. I don't know if messy is the right word. Life is just what it is, and things come up again and again, and yeah, okay, we know that's going to happen. Yeah, and I always tell people, as soon as you think, oh, I've conquered that problem, now I'm done with that, look out. As soon as you think that, something's going to come out of left field and completely take you, on a ride. Yeah, because you've gotten complacent and you stop paying attention and you stop being mindful and just said, okay, that's done. I don't have to worry about that one anymore. And then boom, there it comes. So, when we get to the path of seeing, then we can say that. Okay? But even at path of seeing, you're still wearing away layers and layers of afflictions. Even at the path of seeing, which is the third of the 5 bodhisattva paths, you still have layers of afflictions to go through and release. Yeah, but at least at that path of seeing, there's more stability in the mind. Okay? So His Holiness always recommends that we really look the long term. Yeah, and look in the long distance, and I think that's very good advice. And especially, many of us come into the Dharma, and at the first, when we first start practicing, it seems like, wow, this stuff is terrific, and we just seem to be changing so quickly, and things make sense, and I feel so much lighter and so much better. And then you assume that is just going to keep carrying on the way it is. Yeah, don't assume things. It's kind of like, when you've gone out and you've gotten really, really dirty, when you first shower, it's like, oh, so much dirt is coming off, this is great. Now I'm all clean. But if you look, there's still like grease and stains and all sorts of stuff still on you. It's just that, the dust came off with the first washing. Yeah. So we need to keep at this, and it's a lifetime practice, many lifetimes. Okay, and anyway, what else are we going to do? Yeah? You want to go out and jump into samsara with both feet again? Yippee! I'm going to go have drugs and sex and rock and roll and a career and... Yeah? Well, we've been doing that since beginningless time. So, where's it gotten us? Nowhere. So, what else are we going to do if we don't practice Dharma? There's really nothing else. Is there? Yeah? And if you want to be happy, what else is there besides Dharma that's going to make you happy? Yeah? Oh, I want a relationship. I want a career. I want to be famous. I want to be peaceful and serene. I want to be artistic. I want to be athletic. I want to be gorgeous. I want this. I want that. Well, if we think about it, we've already had all those things in samsara. Many times. We've had beginningless previous lifetimes. We've had all that. Yeah? And that's why, when I told you when my mind gets into craving, I just go into that thing. I imagine I have the whole thing that I'm craving. every little aspect of it. And then I say, now are you totally happy and satisfied? And the answer has never been yes. No matter what I daydream, no matter what I fantasize, and I really ham it up and make it over the top, nothing. When I ask myself the question, are you now satisfied and eternally happy? I'm never able to say yes. Yeah, why? Because there's still ignorance and craving gnawing away inside. So until I deal with those, it's just going to be more of the above. So that's why I said, there's really nothing else to do but our practice. Because everything else we do is going to leave us where we're at right now. Or in worse straits. Yeah, you think about it? Yeah, just think about what you really want in samsara more than anything, And then think, well, if I got it, then is that going to really solve everything? Yeah. All the love I've never gotten, because none of us, anybody here have enough love? Anybody here receive enough love in their life? We can say, I've absolutely, positively have no desire for any more love because I've received so much. Anybody? Yeah. I think we could all use some more love. We all feel, I want more love. I want more people to love me. And take care of me and protect me and think I'm wonderful and support me. Yeah? So we all want that. Then you imagine, then there's that perfect person, who meets all your needs. Everything. Yeah? Whenever you feel like talking about the Battle of Gettysburg, they feel like talking about that too. And whenever you feel like talking about hockey, they want to talk about it too. And whenever you want to dance, they want to dance. And whenever you want to cry, they also want to comfort you. Whatever mood you want, they are pre-programmed to meet it. So that there's never any conflict, never any differences. They fulfill all your needs. Right? Yeah? Then what? What?
What would you want after a while?
Yeah, you get a little bit sick.
Or you might want them to start to kind of disagree with you a little.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's another thing. When you feel like fighting, they also feel like fighting. And when you feel like making up, they also feel like making up. What?
Sounds like a smartphone app.
Yeah, right. Yes, they're pre-programmed. They read your brain waves and your the chemistry in your brain pre-programmed to meet everything. Yeah, and then what?
You're going to go find somebody to fight with for real.
Yeah, right. You'll just get bored and sick and tired of it, and it's like, I need something else. Yeah. So, yeah. Or you have the perfect career finally where everybody thinks you're wonderful and you get to enact all your ideas and no one disagrees and everybody listens to you. In fact, they think your advice is the best in the world and they come to you, please give me your advice. And you go, okay, I'll give you my advice. And they go, thank you, I'll put that into effect right away. And they go out and do whatever you say immediately. And then what?
And you start creating disasters to see what happens.
Right. Then all the disasters become your problem because they all followed your advice. Yeah. So it's, I find this a very effective way to deal with my mind of longing and craving and yearning and, and and I usually have a good laugh about it too. Anyway, so that's, kind of a little bit more about the program. And then I just wanted, there seems to be some misunderstanding too. I was saying that in the Chinese tradition, when you ordain, you no longer stay at your family's house. In the Theravada and Tibetan tradition, usually it's permissible to stay with your family for a short period of time. Yeah. Like I was saying, at the Abbey, we have 2 weeks. People can go off to their family or teachings or whatever they want to do. And, not whatever they want to do. But if you want to go visit family, you can visit family during that time, and stay in their houses. But we don't encourage people to stay with their families a long time, because what happens is there are certain patterns of behavior and emotions in families, and it's so easy when you go into your family to just go back to the role that you are used to playing in the family. Yeah? And you see this, at different family dinners. Before go to that family dinner, your brother and your sister are going to have a quarrel, or that your mother and father are going to have a quarrel, or that, your dad's going to get mad at somebody, or your mom's going to, do something, or because people just have this habit pattern in how they relate to each other. And so it's not very productive to go back into environments where we have strong habit patterns of certain ways of thinking and feeling and acting, because it just so easily comes up again. Yeah. And it's not something we want to encourage in ourselves. Okay? Can you think of patterns of behavior or feeling that you have with your family? With parents or siblings? Somebody want to give an example?
Well, I'm a listener.
Mm-hmm.
So what I have to be careful about the time frame is because they'll talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and I'm the receiver of the talking.
Mm-hmm.
And so after a while, if I'm not really mindful, then I start shutting down, which is my pattern. So my practice is to stay there and be open and responsive, but I have to get out of there within a certain period of time.
Yeah. Okay. And is sitting there and listening for hours something that benefits them?
No, it's just a habit. I mean, it's a pattern that is.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're the listener, and then you get to a certain point where you shut down, and they keep repeating the same thing again and again, which often entrenches it further in their minds. Yeah. Other people? Yeah.
Well, I have several dysfunctional tendencies in my relationship towards my mother, but
Mm-hmm.
one is to really nitpick what she's doing, and especially when it comes to cleaning around the house, if there are dishes in the sink, so, kind of say something about it. Or now it's kind of really actually even worse that she's a Dharma practitioner, because then it's the prayers she's doing, or the way doing practice or something like that, and I'll just just comment tell her to do things a certain way, or do this prayer or that thing.
Mm.
She doesn't like it.
Yeah. So you have the habit of nitpicking with your mom, about cleanliness things, or about now Dharma practice. Yeah. And what does that do to you, and what does that do to your mom?
Yeah, well, for me, I kind of have this sense of just constant, this discomfort or dissatisfaction.
Mhm.
Always like looking at, to her to like fulfill this kind of like need for supporting my way of wanting the house to be, or
Mhm.
the way I want to do my practice, which is obviously completely unrealistic and not anything that will really fulfill any need. And then for her, it just she just seems to get irritated, and then maybe is even more disinclined to actually support whatever it is I'm wanting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a very good example. Yeah, how you come out more disgruntled and dissatisfied, and she comes out more like the rebellious teenager. Little role reversal there. But yeah, she's not happy about it either. So I mean, each of us, we see that it's so easy to get into certain patterns with people we know very well. And so that's why, it's not so good to go and stay with those people for a long time if you're practicing. When it talks about leaving your homeland, in the 37 practices, it's talking about, getting away from situations in which you are so familiar and habitual that you stop becoming aware and mindful of what you're saying and doing and thinking and feeling. Yeah, you just start to live on automatic. Okay, so that's why it is. But people can go visit their families. We usually find that after people go visit their families, they're very happy to come back here. Yeah. So just as a bee feeding on flowers only extracts their nectar without spoiling their color or fragrance, so a bhikshu or bhikshuni entering a city or village is mindful only of his or her own behavior to see if it is correct, and does not interfere in others' affairs or inspect what they do or do not do. Okay? So a bee, just as a bee feeding on flowers, like the little bumblebees that go around in the garden, okay, they only take out the nectar. They don't destroy the flower. They don't make the flower dirty. They don't change the color of the flower. They're just there ever so lightly to relate to the flower in terms of what is necessary, and then they're off. So there's no stickiness between the bee and the flower, and the bee doesn't damage the flower in any kind of way. Okay, so in the same way, when a monastic is going on alms round, or we could say when a monastic is relating to lay people in general, yeah, or even when a monastic is relating to anybody, okay, they're mindful only of their own behavior, okay? So the mindfulness is like on, okay, what am I doing? Yeah, how am I moving through space? Am I having jerky movements? Am I walking in a smooth way? What is being expressed by even the way I walk? Am I walking clump, 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 clump? Because that's a habit. And what do I express when I'm walking clump, clump? Am I walking with a certain look on my face so that you could see my mind is already at the destination and is completely unaware of what I'm doing? Okay. Or am I walking, dragging myself, dragging my feet? What's that expressing? So to be aware of how we are moving through space and how that reflects what's going on in our mind. It can be very helpful, because some people, they have a hard time figuring out what they're feeling if you pay attention to your body very often, that can help you figure out what it is you're feeling. Yeah. Similarly, if you pay attention to body sensations, it often gives you a clue as to what you're feeling. Yeah. If your breath is quick, your mind's likely to be more upset. If your breath is slow, your mind's likely to be more relaxed. Yeah. If your breathing pattern is kind of jerky, then you may be having a lot of stress. Okay? So, very often, just by watching that, watch the feeling in your stomach. Yeah? Or just in your body in general. I know I get a certain feeling sometimes. When something is wrong, I get a certain feeling in my body, and I know when I get that feeling that something's wrong, in my mind, something is getting pushed. And I usually don't know what it is. I have to kind of sit there and say, okay, what has been going on? What has been happening? What am I reacting to or thinking about? But there's a certain feeling I get in my body that lets me know that somehow the way I'm relating to something is askew. Maybe I'm nervous or I'm apprehensive or I'm being deceptive and, I'm feeling a certain feeling in my body. Okay? So often, by being in tune with these things, we can see what we're feeling and what ideas we're having. Okay? So this is what we should be focused on. Yeah, paying attention to what's going on in our own body and mind. Yeah, not in the sense of being self-preoccupied. Not like, oh, my stomach hurts, what's wrong, I better go to the doctor. Oh, I have the sniffles, this is terrible, I might be getting pneumonia. Oh, my little toe hurts, I'm sure it's going to fall off, take me to ER. Not in that kind of way of being mindful. Yeah, that's not mindfulness, that's like anxiety, I think. That's self-preoccupation. But just being aware of, what's happening in the body and mind. Yeah. And when we do the four establishments of mindfulness, this is one of the things we're doing in the break time of, what's going on. And then researching it. And watch the connection between the body and mind. Watch how the physical sensations change, and how the mental thoughts change, how the mental feelings change. Okay, be aware of the impermanence. Mm-hmm. Be aware of when you're having the dukkha of change. Yeah, when something really nice happened in samsara and you're feeling happy. Be aware of that and know that it's the dukkha of change and that it's just, it's that pleasure is going to go down again. The more that situation increases, the more the pleasure is going to go down. Okay, so we're trying to really pay attention to our own experience and to see it in light of impermanence, the nature of dukkha, and with lacking a self, that there's no self there controlling the scene, no self there that's in charge or that, some concrete self that is being devastated or destroyed or harmed. Okay? So really paying attention to that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that person's mindful only of his or her own behavior to see if it's correct. So if we notice, there's craving coming in the mind, better think about impermanence, better think about the disadvantages of cyclic existence so that craving, goes out of my mind. Now, maybe there is anger coming in my mind. Okay, I've got to shift and think about the kindness of others and cultivate fortitude, cultivate love. Yeah, so we learn to become a doctor to our own mind. Yeah. What happens if we don't do this is that we very much live on automatic, so that whatever thought or impulse pops into our mind, we act it out, we speak it out. Yeah. Now, of course, I mean, we all talk about impulsive people who are, it's really quite evident. Usually when we talk about impulsive people, it's when their mind changes a lot. Yeah, isn't that usually how we talk about impulsive? Their mind changes, and whatever they decide at that moment, they act upon. Okay? And we see that people who are impulsive like that are unable to carry anything through from beginning to end, because in the middle, whatever idea they have, they go off and they follow it. Okay? Yeah, some of us aren't quite that bad, but we do act a lot on impulse. The idea comes of, the thought comes, so-and-so's criticizing me, I better defend myself. Out of the mouth comes, shut up. Okay, mind your own business, get out of here. Yeah, without us even noticing, until afterwards we went, oh, gee, look what I just said. Yeah, so the mindfulness that we're trying to cultivate, and the introspective awareness, is to help us stay steady on the way we want to behave, and to notice where our thoughts and our emotions are at any particular moment, so that we can begin to make wise decisions about what we say and do. Yeah, because we often feel like, well, I just don't have any choice, on a very gross level. It's like, well, if somebody talked like that to you, wouldn't you feel this way? Kind of as if, any normal person, of course, would feel the way I feel. Yeah, and no, that's not necessarily true. I mean, I think the Aryas are usually more normal than we are, but they probably wouldn't necessarily feel the way we feel. So if we can stop and become, instead of feeling like, oh, I have no choice but to feel this, to realize, oh, no, there is a choice. Yeah. When I'm not aware, it seems like there's no choice because everything just happens so quickly. But if I actually slow down, I do have some choice about what I think and how I look at this situation. Yeah. And I think that's a lot, when we're doing NVC, this is the kind of thing we're learning. When we play the roles of responding, the jackal of a jackal, or when there's a difficult situation, the response of blaming ourselves, the response of blaming the other person, the response of offering empathy to ourselves, the response of offering empathy to the other person. So in any situation, we have the choice among those four things, four ways of responding, which one we're going to do. When we don't have much mindfulness and introspective awareness, it seems like there's no choice, because so often we just go to the jackal mind of blaming ourselves or blaming somebody else. But when we slow down and we become mindful, we realize, oh, there is a space in there where I can, instead of just following my habit pattern of blaming, where I can stop and think, oh, that other person's suffering. I'm suffering. May I offer empathy to them? May I offer empathy to myself? Yeah. So there's that moment in there. If we're sharp, if we're aware, and of course it takes us time to develop this level of mindfulness and introspective awareness. But as we do, then we realize, oh, there is a moment where I can choose. Yeah? And I want to choose. I don't want to just live on automatic. You know, we always talk about being spontaneous. And in Dharma circles too, you know, it's like, oh, well, the enlightened master acts with spontaneity. And so we don't really understand what spontaneous means. So we think it's our usual meaning, which is whatever I think I do. Yeah, I'm acting spontaneously. Yeah, I feel like jumping in the air, so I jump. I feel like hugging you, I hug you. I feel like cursing at you, I curse you. You know, I'm just acting spontaneously, uncensored. What you see is what you get. No, what you get is what you see is what you get. I'm all just spontaneous, you know. That's not exactly the process of the enlightened masters. Okay, their spontaneity is, ours is spontaneity based on afflictions, spontaneity based on self-centered mind. Their spontaneity is coming from, there's no afflictions there. So it's spontaneous compassion, spontaneous wisdom. Okay. They don't have to censor themselves because there's no afflictions there to censor. Okay. But that's very different than us ordinary beings being spontaneous. And I remember one time, bringing Dharma to the West is such a trip. It's so interesting. So there was one, if I told you what goes on at some of these Western Buddhist teachers' conferences, it's really interesting. Anyway, at one of them, it was back in the 90s, so it was some time ago. So of course you have all these Western Buddhist teachers from different traditions, you know. None of us have any ego left at all, of course. Yeah. Completely ego-free. Yeah. And so there was some discussion going on, you know, about this, you know, people voicing all sorts of different opinions. And in the middle of it, there's this one person got up, and she started taking some big zabutons and throwing one here and throwing another one there and throwing something here. I mean, not at people, but just throwing them around the room. And so she did this for a minute or so, and then we kind of said, okay, what are you doing? And she said, this is spontaneous Dzogchen wisdom. It was like, give me a break. And the sad thing was, I mean, she really believed it, that she was just acting out this spontaneous Dzogchen wisdom of, you know, how they always, you know, in Dzogchen, you know, it's inexpressible, inexplicable, you know. And so here it is, just coming out in these motions of tossing the zabuton and the zabuton, you know. So, yeah, so this is not, you know, this is not what we're talking about, yeah? Okay? So let's go back to the bee, you know. Okay, so the bhikshu or bhikshuni entering a city or village is mindful only of their own behavior to see if it's correct. It's like, you know, it's not self-conscious in the sense of, uh-oh, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? Everybody's looking at me. If I make a mistake, they're going to criticize the Dharma. They're going to criticize me. I'm going to lose my reputation. It's not that kind. That's not mindfulness. That is anxiety and self-consciousness. Okay, please differentiate between mindfulness and introspective awareness and being self-conscious in an unhealthy way and anxiety. They're very, very different. Okay. Yeah. So that person, you know, really is like monitoring, Yeah, that's the function of introspective awareness. It monitors, you know. What am I thinking? How am I moving? And sometimes we can see when we move in a certain way, oh, I'm irritated about something. What is it I'm irritated about? Yeah. Or, you know, I'm really wanting something. I'm being quite craving and greedy right now. What is it? Yeah, because we become sensitive to what's happening in our body and mind. And that gives us a lot of power. That kind of mindfulness of our precepts and introspective awareness that's monitoring, that gives us a lot of power. Because then we aren't just at the whim of whatever affliction pops up into our mind and whatever action it wants to motivate. Okay? So the bhikshu or bhikshuni, you know, in relating to other people, does not interfere in others' affairs. Okay? When you're with lay people, you don't get involved in all of their family problems and trying to solve their family problems. Okay? You listen, you give Dharma advice. You listen, you respond with NVC. You don't become Mr. or Mrs. Fix-It. Yeah? And we really have to be careful of this because we have a tendency, you know, I'm going to tell them what to do that will fix their problem. And usually when people have problems, they always say, what do I do, what do I do? And it's not really a question of what should they do. The question is, how can they first make their mind peaceful? Yeah, so when somebody comes to you, what do I do, what do I do? You say, that's not the question we need to be concerned with right now. First the question is, how do you make your mind peaceful? After your mind is peaceful, you'll know what to do. Yeah. Before your mind is peaceful, there's no sense making a plan because whatever you plan is not going to work out well because your mind's all agitated and angry and filled with rubbish. Yeah. So, I mean, this goes for ourselves as well when we get upset. Yeah. Try and calm ourselves down, then go talk to the other person. So don't just, what should I do, what should I do? It's not what should I do, it's how do I calm myself? How do I help this other person be calm? Okay? So we don't get involved because, you know, with all the trips, you know, oh, well, you know, my uncle borrowed money from me and they haven't repaid it and now that I need it and they're saying da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know, you hear that story from one person, from the next person. I'm getting divorced and my spouse is, you know, really being obnoxious and what do I do? And then the next person, you know, I have a teenage kid who's just totally rebellious and flying off the wall. What do I do? And then the next one is, you know, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job and I'll wind up on the streets next Tuesday. What do I do? And we can become, you know, Dear Abbey. Yeah. The word for the nun is Annie, you know. So Annie Landers. We become Dear Abbey and Annie Landers, you know. And then we feel, this is the hook for us. Then we feel useful. We feel needed. Everybody's coming to me for my advice. So I'm needed, I'm important, I'm useful. Yeah. And so we go out looking for that kind of thing. Yeah. That's not suitable behavior. Yeah. We listen and we counsel lay people, definitely. You know, that's part of our responsibility. But listening, counseling in terms of the Dharma, Yeah, doing reflective listening is very different from becoming Mr. and Ms. Fix-It, and then even going so far not just to give them advice, but to, well, I'll go talk to them for you. Wait, I'll go talk to your husband. I'll go talk to your wife. You know, oh boy, that's gonna get messy quick. Okay? So really make these differentiations. Okay? We also don't interfere in others' affairs in the sense of, you know, we are invited maybe for a meal to a lay person's house, or we're staying at somebody's house because we're flying out of Spokane early in the morning, and we don't go, oh wow, look at their house. This blanket is so beautiful. I would really like a snuggly blanket like this for my room at the Abbey instead of this flea-ridden thing that, you know, they gave me. Especially when I changed rooms. I had such a nice blanket before, and then I couldn't take it with me. And I have this old, kind of rough, scratchy blanket. I'm sure it has fleas. And this person has such a nice blanket in their house. Gee. And then, you know, you say to the people in his house, you say, gee, that's such a beautiful, warm, cozy blanket. I had such a good sleep. Right. Hint, 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 hint. Okay. I remember Geshe Tekchok. He was quite skillful. I went to visit him one time in India, and the person who was translating for me, I think, was having a little bit of this kind of difficulty when, I'm sure it was somebody else's problem Geshe was talking about, not mine. But, yeah, I'm sure. But Geshe started talking to me about, you know, be really careful, you know, kind of now when you're traveling and you're going to see many people, you know, when you go into people's house, don't just look at everything in the room. Yeah, you know, kind of pay attention to what's going on inside of you, and don't go around checking out all their possessions and their books, you know, what's on this and that and all the things and knickknacks they have and the color of the carpeting and all this stuff, you know. And I think actually the person who's translating for me, I think it was kind of an indirect teaching maybe meant for them, because I am like the last of the shoppers. You know, like, ugh, the last thing I want to do. See, I told you, somebody else's problem. It's not my problem. You know, even though I really saw this house with this, you know, exactly the kind of carpet that would look really good in the Abbey. You know? And now that I'm noticing light fixtures, I never noticed light fixtures before. This light fixture is really good. You know? These ones we have here are kind of good. Yeah, I never really noticed them before. Not bad. I think the fan could use some improvement. Okay, but yeah, so the thing is really, you know, when we're in lay people's houses, we should not be looking at all their stuff and commenting on their possessions. Yeah? And developing craving for their possessions and so on. And it's a strange thing, because, you know, lay people, one way that you express affection for somebody is to tell them they look nice, or to tell them their clothes are nice, as if because your clothes are nice it means you're a good person. I've always thought that's strange. Isn't that weird? People take that when somebody says, oh, your clothes are so nice, they take that to mean, oh, I really like you, you're a good person. But nobody's saying that. They're just commenting on the clothes. But, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? How we say something, or, you know, this food is really good, means I love you. Yeah, when actually you're not saying that. You're just commenting on the food. So, if people offer us a meal, we say thank you, and we say the food's very good, and we very much appreciate it, but we don't lay it on thick, okay? And we don't get into commenting on people's clothes or on their hair. Oh, you cut your hair, it looks so good. Oh, you got a new dress. I really like that. Oh, you got a new shirt. That looks good. I will comment when people lose weight. I will comment on that because I want to encourage them, because I know that they feel better and they'll be healthy when they lose weight. So that one I do comment on, But other things, oh, you have more wrinkles. Because you never say you have less wrinkles, do you? That's impossible. The best you could say is, oh, I really like what you're wearing. But, we're Sangha. We're not supposed to be, all looking at what people are wearing. Because as soon as we look at what people are, oh, I remember I used to wear something like that. Oh, that was really good. Then I had my long hair and I used to go like that, and my earrings. And yeah, people used to look at me when I looked like that. And then we're off in La La Land. Okay? So we want to restrain the mind from that. Okay? So it doesn't interfere with others' affairs. Yeah, or inspect what they do or do not do. Okay, so we don't go into our mother's house and say, what do we say?
Mom, why are there so many dishes in this thing?
Mom, why are there so many differences in the thing?
Just wash them after you cook.
Yeah, why don't you wash them after you cook? Well, I've been saving them for you to come home and do them. Because I washed all your dishes for the first 20 years of your life. Yeah, so we don't investigate what they do or what they don't do. Okay? Their business is their business. Our business is to be mindful of our own body, speech, and mind. Okay. Now, this holds in a monastery too. But at the same time, we're supposed to help each other and, comment if we see somebody is going off in a wrong direction, or if somebody's committed, transgression of a precept that they aren't acknowledging, that they aren't confessing, then, we're supposed to kind of say things to them. Yeah? So then it gets a little bit confusing, because on one hand, I'm not supposed to investigate what people do and don't do. On the other hand, I'm supposed to say things when I see people going off in a wrong direction. Yeah, so what is it? What do I do? Yeah, because often it's interesting, the areas where we think somebody's going off in a wrong direction coincidentally happen to be the things about them that drive us nuts. It's funny, isn't that? Isn't it? Yeah. If they have some habit that actually isn't so virtuous, but we like it, we never comment on that one. Yeah, we comment on their habits that we don't like. Okay, so we have to check up before we, say anything to people. What is our motivation? Are we being picky? Are we being, just picky? Are we using the pretense of admonishing somebody to air our anger and irritation at them? Are you getting what I mean? Yeah, like the pretext is, well, we have a precept involved in this and that, or we have an in-house rule at the Abbey to do this and that, But but underneath is, I can't stand what this person is doing. How am I going to get them to stop? So it's not done out of compassion. It's done out of, self-concern and irritation on our part. Okay? So we want to check about that and see. Yeah. And we also want to check, because we shouldn't make our prime focus looking at whether others are breaking their precepts or not. Our prime focus is not whether others are going in a wrong direction. It's what we're doing. Okay? Because we can spend our whole day and night commenting on everybody else's behavior in this community. Yeah? And this is the value of doing group retreat, because you see your mind do exactly that. We want to comment on everybody else's behavior, and we don't like to look at our own mind. Okay? So that's something we really have to rein in, because that, when it's talking about not inspecting what they do or don't do, that's part of it. Yeah? Because we can sometimes just get over-scrupulous on, on how we're supposed to do everything. Yeah? And okay, we have a policy. You either have a glass or a cup. You don't have both a glass and a cup. And you have a glass and a cup. And don't you know, it's a rule in our policy book. I can even show you. We have something that, we're trying to conserve dishes, so you either have a glass or a cup, and you don't have both. Yeah? And, so we're saying that to one person. Then to the other person, it's, you're on the chore rota for cleaning toilets, and Margaret taught us how to clean toilets properly. And it would be really helpful if you asked her again, because I just went, and that toilet is really not clean. And it is a rule in this monastery to clean toilets like Margaret taught us. See, it's in the policy book. Yeah. So please, improve the way you clean the toilets around here. Yeah. And, Venerable Tarpa gave us that wonderful BBC talk on what to recycle. And there is a carrot bag in the recycling again. And she explicitly told us we can't recycle that. It's like, don't you respect Venerable Tarpa, who's educating us for the benefit of sentient beings on what to recycle and not recycle? Okay? And so we can go on and on and on about this, can't we? Ad nauseum, commenting on everybody else's behavior. Mm-hmm. So this is a habit we should restrain.
Well, what do you do?
Oh, I comment on everybody else's behavior. That's what I do. That's part of my job, because I'm supposed to train them all, so I get to do it. So none of you get to do it, but I do. Yes?
We just pick up the bag, put it where it's supposed to be, and use it as a practice for our station, or blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We eventually say something in the group to...
Yeah. You may do that if it's happening repeatedly. You may say, Venerable Tarpa, please give us more instructions, up-to-date instructions about what we can recycle. And she'll say this time, they changed the regulations and we can recycle carrot bags now. And then the person who you corrected will go, yeah. So, so there's some things that, you just pick up after somebody or do, do what you need to do, you help out. If it's something that's happening repeatedly, then you might need to comment. But you have to look, am I only looking at, this particular person's chores? Like the person who coincidentally is the one who drives me buggy. I only look to see if she's done her chores or not. Yeah. And meanwhile, my chores haven't been done, but, neither of hers, and hers are more important. Okay? So, we have to have, come back to ourselves and, what's going on inside of me. Okay? Okay, so that is the Vinaya of Tathagata Kanakachanda, Krakuchanda, the unattached one, the fully awakened one. Okay. Then, questions? Comments? Yeah.
I'm thinking about, watching our speech and that mindfulness. I've noticed, I don't think I'm, quite an excitable, emotional person anyway, but when I drink less caffeine, I'm a lot more settled, and I've heard you talk before about why you don't have coffee at the Abbey, because sometimes things just come out of your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, you can get wired with caffeine, so it helps to slow down when you don't drink it. Other questions, comments? Yeah.
Well, you mentioned something about to watch the feelings in your body. Sometimes indicate that you're being pushed or buttons are being pushed. So if you're going through that, and I've been having a lot of that lately. So what is the practice? Because I notice that when I get those feelings in my body, my mind gets very anxious, very out of whack.
Yeah.
What's the practice to make your name call, even if these things are going on?
Yeah. Well, what I do if I get a certain feeling in my body, and then let's say I say, okay, that I notice that's the feeling in my body I have when my mind is anxious, then I'll stop and I'll say, okay, what exactly is making me anxious at this time? And I'll kind of review, well, what's been going on, the last hour, the last day, the last couple of days. What is the topic of my anxiety? Yeah. And then when I identify the topic of the anxiety, then I start the questioning process of, well, why does this make you anxious? What are you afraid of? What is really underlying this anxiety? Because usually my mind's painting some kind of catastrophic, dramatic scene of what's going to happen, and if I can, identify it, or it's uneasiness because I think maybe somebody doesn't like me, or that remark somebody made, I think they're mad at me, but, so I feel kind of anxious inside, like, okay, when's the next shoe going to drop? Because something's already coming towards me. And so then to say, okay, look what's happening inside me. There's fear, there's suspicion. I myself am getting angry. Yeah, and I'm getting defensive and protective. And then I'll ask myself, in actual fact, what can this person do to me? This remark they made, how do I know it means what I think it means? And even if they did have an intention to throw a jab at me, why do I need to catch the jab with both hands and hold it dearly? What would happen if I just let it keep flying by? Yeah. And then often I'll see, oh, there's a pattern in my mind of being afraid of a certain kind of thing. You know, I'm really stuck on reputation, or really stuck on people thinking I'm stupid, or people thinking whatever it is. And then to say, oh, I really have a pattern with that. But that's not what this person is saying. And that's not who I am anyway. It's just a thought I have about myself. Yeah, and so I'll start working with it, applying an antidote of some sort. You know, their words, impermanent. Yeah, it's my mind that's making meaning out of their words according to my own habit. I don't know that, they have an intention to harm me. Even if they have an intention to harm me, still, why do I need to be nervous and upset and anxious about it? Okay? So I kind of work with my mind in that kind of way. Yeah? Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
I had quite a long time a very strong conviction that somebody, for example, anger towards me, and even though in classes, that this has an effect. Even if this person is not in front of me, even if this person could be kind of far away, maybe half an hour from where I'm living, I have a strong conviction that this is possible. This person can have kind of an influence.
So they're sitting there, maybe even 3 hours away, thinking, I hate Venerable Jampa. I hate Venerable Jampa. I hate Venerable Jampa. They're eating their toast with jam in the morning. I hate Venerable Jampa. She's always doing this and that. Drinking their tea. Oh, she just drives me crazy. I hate Venerable Jampa. And that's their mantra. And although they have no concentration in their meditation, they are single-pointedly, I hate Venerable Jampa. They go to sleep. Oh, I hate Venerable Jampa. And they're sending you negative vibes all the time. Look at those vibes that just went by. Did you see those? Venerable Yeshe, you see vibes. Did you see those? There they go, boing! And they hit Venerable Jampa. Wow! Yes? Then?
I don't want to take anymore. So I have this, I don't have it anymore.
That's good.
I had, for example, experiences that I thought there was a feeling in my stomach like somebody is talking into it, or a feeling of losing my consciousness. I couldn't explain it to myself. And I have this strong conviction somebody is thinking really badly about me at this moment. I couldn't do good for myself.
Okay, then you just become Chenresi.
Yeah.
You become Chenresi, and you radiate compassionate light out into the universe. Yeah. And then your compassion, their vibes are coming, and your compassionate light is coming and goes boing! Yeah, no, you meditate on compassion.
Yeah, I'm convinced about that. You know, I opened to this collection. It was many years ago. And I think many people who are coming also to that. Some of them, I talk with them, they have this kind of knowledge, information, how that, for example, water reflecting, water projection. Water is receiving the information. Like through meditation, you can change water structures in our body, as all these things. And I have learned that in different talks and so many books. And it came over the years that I kind of believe when somebody is really good to me, then it will have a good effect. When somebody is bad to me, it will have this effect that I affectable by people or environment. So I was so sensitive.
Yeah.
Of course, I know that I have to look at my own mind and work on my own afflictions and my own.
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of stuff is what Lama Yeshe would call namtok, superstitious thoughts, And whenever people get, and because there's so many theories about, kind of this coming at you or this radiating here or that or the other thing, and at the end of the day, I have to say, how does thinking like that help you attain liberation? Because our goal is liberation. Yeah. How does viewing the world as having all these negative forces all around coming at you from every direction, how does that help you attain liberation? And is that true? And let's come back and investigate our body, speech, and mind. Let's come back to our practice, because we can get all swirling around with all sorts of different things. Yeah? Full of there was somebody here, what was it, an alternative universe or a parallel universe? Wasn't that something like the same thing is happening in another universe? Yeah, spontaneous. Well, that's nice. So what? How does that help me get rid of my ignorance, anger, and attachment? Yeah. Meditate and change the structure of water. I would suppose if somebody has samadhi, I bet you they could do that because, you can walk on water when you have powers from samadhi. I bet that's true. But for me personally, where I'm at this point in the path, that doesn't do anything for me. I have to look and, when do I have ignorance, anger, and attachment? How am I cultivating love, altruism, and wisdom? Yeah. Ruby, you?
Thoughts, but I just thought, well, if those negative thoughts have that power, I think most school teachers would be dead by now. My students do eat toast and think this stupid pee-pee, she's going to put me in detention if I'm late, and every day you go to repeat that sort of thought. Actually, I was at the time when I was kind of learning, but I was thinking powerful people, not people who have totally abstract, more than people who have kind of control over the thoughts there.
Yeah. Then you just send them kindness.
I wanted to share what I thought was useful about receiving feedback, because I noticed that if someone's coming from a kind place, they will often state an observation about my behavior and ask, is there a reason for this? Where is this coming from? And so that's not the assumption that I'm being lazy, and it's not an accusation. It's not, you didn't do this, or I noticed you didn't do this, can you do this? And then they immediately come in with a solution. But make that space to ask what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And I guess, most people are acting out of some kind of desire to help or be happy.
Yeah.
So to have this space to
Yeah. So you find it helpful when somebody, instead of assuming they know why you're doing a certain behavior, just says, I noticed you doing this. What's going on, or what were you thinking, or and that helps you not to be defensive. Yeah.